Very good morning to you. Is it cold out there this morning? It was coming in this morning, a little bit wet. Let us know your thoughts. Sandy has said immigration may be down thanks to the Tories, but look around all those cities and you would still think otherwise.
Well, a lot of them don't feel. People don't feel. Some people feel alienated in their own communities.
They do.
Because of the dramatic and swift increase in migration.
It's also...
social cohesion. I mean,
London is profoundly multicultural now.
Yeah, and
phenomenal.
Kemi Badenoch made the point, didn't she, in her speech yesterday, her first big speech as Tory leader, that it's just not, integration's just not working.
I didn't like Badenoch yesterday saying, oh, we were too soft on migration. Do you think? I'm finding it a bit tiresome with the Conservatives. I mean, look, she's new at the helm, so she has to make
tell us what you're going to do.
Difference, right?
Tell us what you're going to do.
JD has said, please don't keep showing Ed Davies singing. I can't stand the man. Look, I think we can agree that it's a fantastic
it's a good cause.
Project, thank you. It's a great cause. Carers are...
We should show the thing of me singing very badly, out of tune.
Carers...
I've done one for Great Ormond Street Hospital.
You have, which was also a very good cause and a very good venture.
I didn't look... I'm fairly humiliated in the process because I can't sing.
Yeah, well, you said it on me. But the message about love is all you need, or whatever it was, all you need is love. It's not. They need funding and support as well. Catherine says, morning, Beverly and Andrew. I disagree with the gentleman. You said, why shouldn't students care for their families who they want to bring here, but our own students can care for their families? Are we forgetting they are students, and if they need to care for dependent family members, this is going to be a drain on our services. In the end, they might end up claiming benefits using our NHS, etc. I'm glad the Conservatives have closed another loophole. Andrew, you can't have it both ways. You just said how are people going to run the care homes? You either have immigration or not.
You make people work. You get people off benefits. We've got 1.5 million people unemployed. You make them work. They take the jobs, or you don't get benefits.
The thing is, those unemployed are predominantly boys, men between the ages of 18 to 24. Perfect. They are not going to go and work in a care home.
Just the job.
They're not going to go and bath an old lady, are they?
It'll do them the world of good. Do them the world of good. I
don't think if I was an old lady, I'd want to be bathed by a 21-year-old man.
All right, 21-year-old girl. There'll be young women unemployed too.
Well, look, for whatever reason, it's not gelling, is it? The jobs we need filling is not working with the workforce who aren't going to work, and it looks like it's not going to get any better before it gets worse. It really does. Let's go to Mark White here to look a little more on these figures, which have just fallen this morning, an overall fall in net migration by 20% from a record 906 to 728,000 in the year to June. Mark White, first of all, that figure of 906,000, which is up to June 2023, I'm sure we recalled that as being more like 745,000 last year. Where's that figure come from?
Well, as always with these statisticians, they revise figures, don't they? They love nothing better than delving down into all the trends and then suddenly figures that come out for the Office of National Statistics, or indeed the Home Office, saying one thing, a few months later they get revised quietly upwards. But you're right, 906,000 is an astronomical figure that came through for the previous year. And of course then the last year to June this year shows that figure has reduced by 20%, but it's still reduced, 728,000. But that's still a very significant number, easily a city the size of Aberdeen coming over every year. So clearly unsustainable as far as both this government and the previous government is concerned. But I think, as well as the net migration figures, what I'm really interested in delving into, and we're going to give you a look here on the screen, are the figures that come out from the Home Office. They love to confuse us by bringing their statistics out on the very same day as the Office for National Statistics. These are the visa applications. Now, you can see here 241,719 visa applications for work made in the year ending September 2024. That's interesting because it's obviously giving us more. It's not just to June, but September, so we're getting more of an idea of how things have been shaping out this year since some key changes came in. That's 28% fewer than the previous year. Now look here, health and care workers, 50,591 visas that were granted to care workers. That is 65% fewer than the previous year. Now that may well be because of some of the changes that have come through from the previous government, the Conservative government, which brought in changes to the way in which certain care sector workers were precluded from taking their families across. Salary thresholds were also increased to ensure that you had to be of a certain level before you qualified for a visa if you're an overseas care worker and want to come to the UK. Student visas, that's another really interesting area here. Just take a look at that. 392,969 study visas granted to foreign students in the year to September 2024 this year. 19% fewer than the previous year. Now, further down here is, I think, the most interesting part of that. In the first 9 months of this year, visas issued to dependents of students. Now, this reflects those reforms that came in under the Conservatives, where students were no longer, in the vast majority of cases, allowed to take their dependents over. They fell by 84%, 17,978 visas issued to dependents. So an 84% drop there, worth reiterating. And interestingly as well, let's click on here, right, and go a bit further down. This gives us an indication of where these students are coming from and whether they have been affected by the changes that the previous government implemented. Now, historically, Indians and Nigerians have been the vast majority of those foreign students coming here and with their dependents, 31% and 62% respectively between 2019 and 2023. Well, it shows here that Indian nationals accounted for the highest number of sponsored visas granted each year from June 2022, but are now again second to Chinese nationals. And we were looking for the dependents here, weren't we, in terms of how that has dropped, the number of foreign...
I wonder whether we should...
Indian and Nigerian, yeah. So basically it's fallen by 31% and 62% respectively is what I meant to say there, which is, I think, very interesting because it gives perhaps an indication that Indian and Nigerian students in particular were taking significant cohorts of family members across with them. Something else worth telling you about, an awful lot of concern about irregular migration, about the asylum system, the strain on that. We can tell you that buried deep in the Home Office figures there is a new costing for how much it's costing us to basically the wraparound services for these asylum seekers in the course of a year. £5.38 billion in 2023-24, up 36% from £3.95 billion in 2022-2023. So very significant, really. And also we're getting some details about the nationalities represented. We already know the numbers that have crossed the English Channel illegally, or the new government says irregularly, over this year. It's 34,000, quite a few thousand up on the 29,500 who crossed over the whole of last year. In terms of the nationalities, though, who are coming across, the lead nationality, I think, is Afghanistan. And the second nationality, most prominent nationality represented, we can show you here, are Vietnamese. So Afghans and Vietnamese, the two most common nationalities represented amongst the small boat arrivals. And interestingly, of course, the British government has been in Vietnam trying to do cooperation agreements with the government there to ensure that on law and order and returns that they're working a bit more effectively.
The obvious question is, why are so many coming from Vietnam? It is not. There is no war. There is no particular internal strife. It is not an especially repressive government. It seems to me their case for coming here would be very limited. What are they fleeing from?
Well, indeed, I think many people have had a lovely holiday in Vietnam, but without being too flippant, it is true that there are people on the economic scale who are much poorer in Vietnam, but they're not fleeing any hostilities, any wars in that country. So many of those from Vietnam come across because they've got a promise of work, and often actually that is work in the criminal industry, working in the likes of cannabis farms or working illegally in the black economy here. So lots of the Vietnamese nationals, like the Albanians before them, they don't want to go into the asylum system. They want to come over, and in fact many of them, just like the Albanians, are granted a sort of a hotel for a while their application is being considered, and then they just disappear off into the black economy. The black economy, where we estimate that about 1 million to 1.5 million people are currently working illegally in this country.
Right,
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. You know, the Vietnamese girls, often it's women who come over and men. They're all doing the nail bars.
There's a lot of them.
You know all those nail bars that are sprung
yeah.
up on every high street?
Yeah.
All the Vietnamese. They're very good at doing nails.
Very good. Yeah.
Not paying any tax.
Yeah, and they speak, and because I've been in them, hardly a word of English is spoken.
No, don't need to.
No.
Point at a colour. They do a really nice job. But yeah, it's a
I never point at a colour.
big issue.